Good. Thank you very much for inviting me. What a beautiful temple it is. It's a lovely place. It's my first time here, but it will not be the last time. And I have been in contact with Buddhism, and I met the Dalai Lama when I was 20 years old. I used to live in an ashram in Bodh Gaya, and the Dalai Lama had just come only a few years before from Tibet, so he was a young man. So we more or less share the same age. He is my just slightly older brother, only by 1 year. He was born in 1935. I was born in 1936. So just 1 year younger. And I was just saying to Trinley on my way that sometimes I consider the Buddha as the founder of the Friends of the Earth. Because today is Earth Day, and he was friend of the earth. And one of the story which I like very much, can everybody hear me? Yes. Yeah. One of the story I like very much is a dialogue between the Buddha and his son Rahul. And one day, this young man, Rahul, young boy, comes to his father and says, "Daddy, you are world teacher. Everybody follows you, it seems to me. But who is your teacher?" And Buddha was sitting in meditation like this, cross-legged, left palm below, right palm above, and he lifted his palm and he touched the earth. And he said, "Earth is my teacher." And that is called Bhumi Sparsh Mudra. Touch the earth posture. And he says to Rahul, and then there's a lot of teaching there. He then teaches, water is my teacher, air is my teacher, fire is my teacher, all the elements he talks about. But the earth particularly, he talks about, why earth is your teacher? I learn from the earth the lesson of forgiveness. Earth forgives. Whatever you do, you walk on it, you plow it, you build on it. Whatever you do, earth never resents. It is always forgiving. Earth forgives. It's a wonderful, wonderful lesson we can learn. So, earth is wonderful. Earth is also very humble. I learned from earth the humility. Earth always stays under your feet, never on your head. Earth has no ego. So we can learn humility. In Latin, the word for the soil is humus. Those of you who are gardeners, permaculturists will know humus is the Latin word. From humus comes human. So we human beings are literally soil beings, earth beings. We are made of the earth. Our body is nothing else but soil transformed. We are soil. And when I say soil and earth, every element, in language we say there are 4 elements or 5 elements, but that's only in language, because language divides earth, air, fire, water. They're separate. But in reality, there is no separation. Earth contains water, earth contains air, earth contains fire. In my body, I am earth, air, fire, water. 70% of my body is water. Some people would say, water and fire cannot go together, like chalk and cheese. How can fire and water go together in one? No separation. I say, in your body, you have fire. Your temperature, body warmth is fire. Your belly has fire. We call it Jataragni in Sanskrit. Means the fire to digest your food. You cook the food in your kitchen, on the stove, but that's not enough cooked. The stomach then cooks it again and digests it. So that's the Jataragni. So you have to have belly full of fire to digest the food. So all our body temperature is a fire in our body. So earth, air, water, fire are all together. So when I say soil is only a symbol, linguistic symbol, but soil contains all the elements. And so the Buddha teaches Rahul that I learn humility from the soil. And the word humility is related. Humus, humanity, humility, humidity, they are all words coming from the same root. The etymological dictionary, if you consult, you will find that these all words are connected. So forgiveness, humility, unconditional giving, unconditional love is quality of the soil. You plant, and generosity. You plant one seed in the ground. For example, apple seed. That soil is a welcome seed and embraces it. And then seed melts itself, its ego. And it forgets itself. It's no longer separate self. Anatta. The Buddhist term, anatta? No separate self. That's the emptiness. The seed is empty. It becomes soil. And when it becomes soil and seed, and as I said, all elements are together, water, rain, sun, all together, it grows. So soil, in its generosity, is turning its own body into the tree and into the branches. Branches are soil. The leaves are soil. The blossom in front of your garden, in front of your temple, the blossom, pink blossom of cherry, that is soil transformed. Soil is giving its generosity and unconditional love to all living beings. That's the quality of the earth. All living beings. Birds come and sit on it. And when you have apple blossom, beautiful apple blossom, pink and white, I have 15 apple trees in my orchard. And when I watch those blossom transforming into little apples, and then nature, its own generosity, sacrifice, you can call it. It gives its body. And the rain and the sun and the tree and the soil, everybody working together. Total cooperation. In nature, there is no competition. It's only cooperation. The sun is helping the seed. The rain is helping the seed. The soil is helping the seed. Seed is helping this. Everybody working together and becoming a tree. And then sun and the air and the water all working together in cooperation and generosity day and night. All the months of May and June and July and August. And come September, those green apples are turning red and pink. And that sour apple is turning into sweet, delicious, fragrance, crispy apple. And now it's ready with its generosity and unconditional love. And come and enjoy apples. And when you go to apple tree, it never asks you, have you come with your Visa card? No, it's a free gift. Unconditional free gift. And whoever you are the Dalai Lama, His Holiness, have apples. You are an ordinary thief, sinner, somebody very ordinary, have apples. Undiscriminating love. You are a saint or a sinner, have apples. You are educated, uneducated, have apples. Rich or poor, have apples. Black or white, have apples. That unconditional love of the soil, unconditional love of nature, unconditional love of the earth. So it goes on. This is why I call the Buddha the first founder of Friends of the Earth. And so we need to revere the soil. We have to remember, now in our cities, we are so much sort of living in a concrete jungle. So much tarmac, so many roads, so many cars, so many shopping malls, so much. We have lost the touch with the soil. So what I would like you, people living in London, to bring a little soil back into your life. Have a little pot on your window. Have a little roof garden. If you have a roof on your house, make a little garden on your roof. Even if there is somewhere little space, get in touch. If you are not able to find a space, have an allotment. Do you know, according to the British law, at the time of the war, I think it was enacted, every British citizen has a legal right to claim an allotment. You can ask your council that you want an allotment, and they are legally obliged to give you an allotment. And so, this is a very good law. And we should, so if you are not aware of it, ask your council. You want an allotment. Touch the soil. This is therapeutic. If you have mental problems, you have relationship problems, you are not getting on with your husband, you are not getting on with your children, or wife, or parents, or neighbors, leave them behind and go to the garden. Touch the soil. Learn from the soil, the generosity, the love, the compassion of the soil. You don't need to read the Bible or even The Way of the Bodhisattva by Shantideva to learn the patience and wisdom. Learn from the earth. Even Shantideva learned from the earth. The Buddha learned from the earth. So Buddha says to Rahul, earth is my teacher. Then I go to the second word, that is soul. Now, soil has soul. In our modern science, we say, now soul is not the same as a separate self. Soul is a quality of human beings. I call them, soul qualities are compassion, love, generosity, service, beauty, unity. All these are soul qualities. So you have material quality, matter, and non-material quality. So whatever is non-material is soul. So when I say soul, it's not an entity like separate self. As even the seed has no separate self. The tree has no separate self. We are all made of each other. Like the Thich Nhat Hanh talks about, that when you have a piece of paper is made of a tree. Piece of paper is made of the sun. The piece of paper is made of the rain. There is no separate paper. So there is no separate self. But the quality of a human is what I call soul qualities. So the soul qualities are to cultivate your compassion, your kindness, your patience, your generosity, your beauty. At the moment, people have forgotten the place of beauty. In our cities, modern times, machines make things, but very little place for beauty. For beauty, you need imagination. And imagination is a soul quality. Quite often I say, imagination is the fifth element. Earth, air, fire, water are the four elements. Those are physical elements. But the non-physical, metaphysical element is imagination. And that's soul. Imagination is the soul. So nature has imagination. The tree has imagination to become the blossom. The pink blossom you see in front of your temple, in the garden. The tree has intelligence and imagination and memory to become apple. So we have imagination and we can become a Buddha. We can become a Bodhisattva. We can become our true selves if we let go of our ego and our separation. The separation is the philosophy of the West, promoted by all the sciences, analysis, distinction, division. You are English, I'm American, you are Buddhist, I'm a Hindu, you are a Muslim, I'm a Jew. All this separation is the science has given us. The Western philosophy is philosophy of separation. There was a famous philosopher in France called René Descartes, and he separates mind and matter, dualism, mind, matter, dualism. The famous Cartesian dualism, mind and matter are separate, whereas the Buddhist teaching is non-dualistic. The Hindu teaching, the Vedanta teaching, the Jain teaching, the Indian teaching, the Eastern teaching of Taoism and Buddhism in China, both work together, and in Tibet. It's a non-dualistic. There's unity of life. We are all made of each other. So there's no difference between that tree there, out there, the blossom, the pink blossom tree, cherry tree in the garden, and I, Satish Kumar here. There's no difference. The tree is made of earth, air, fire, water, imagination, beauty, creativity, compassion. Everything is there. We are made of the same thing. But we have forgotten what tree remembers. We have forgotten to give our blossom for the pleasure and joy and happiness and ananda of everybody else. Tree is just giving. So when we start to give our love and our compassion and our kindness and our generosity and our help to each other, we become the blossoming tree. We blossom in our life. Our lives are blossoming when we are in that state of mind. So I say soul qualities you need to cultivate. For that, you need to come to a temple, you need to study Buddha, you need to study Bodhisattva, you have to have meditation, you have to chant mantras. All those are techniques to lead you into that compassionate life. It's a windows. It's not just a kind of words or just a kind of ritual. Ritual is only a window into something deeper, something more profound. And so I say that soil and soul. And a soul has soil in it, and a soil has soul in it. There is no separation, no dualism. Only linguistically we separate the words. And then I come to third word, is a society. And the society also has to be based in the sense of unity. At the moment you see in the world so much conflict, religious conflicts, political conflicts, war in Syria, war in Afghanistan, war in Iraq, war in Kashmir, Hindus and Muslims fighting with each other, Buddhists and Muslims in Burma fighting with each other. All this is based on division. I would like people to realize the importance of diversity. Diversity is not division. It's wonderful to have Buddhism and Christianity and Hinduism and Taoism and Tibetan Buddhism and Theravada Buddhism and Hinayana Buddhism and Mahayana Buddhism and many, many different lineages within Tibetan tradition, many diversity of approaches within Buddhism, diversity of approaches within all religions. Diversity is to be embraced. Diversity is to be celebrated. It's wonderful to have so many religions in the world. If 8 billion people in the world had only one religion, it would be very boring. Just 8 billion people, all Buddhists, all following Karmapa, all following the Dalai Lama, nobody else. That would be boring. The Dalai Lama never wants that. He said, you don't have to be Buddhist, be a good person. That's his generosity, his compassion, his kindness. He said, you don't have to be a Buddhist. It's a label. You are more than a label. You are a human spirit. You are pure human consciousness. Be consciousness. Label is only a label. You call me Satish Kumar. It's only a label. Call me Indian. It's a label. I don't mind a label, but I'm more than my label. I'm more than my name. I'm more than my religion. I'm a pure consciousness. I'm a pure human spirit. And that, when we realize that, we can celebrate. Wonderful. You are a teacher of Bodhisattva. Teach me. You are a teacher of the Bible. Teach me. You are a teacher of Quran. Teach me. Bhagavad Gita. Teach me. I want to learn. More you learn, different. You have languages. Diversity of languages. Learn French. Oh, you are a French speaker. Tell me. How do you say in French, I love you? Whether you say in French or German or Tibetan or Hindi or English, I love you. What it matters is not the language. Do you really love? I mean, whatever language you say, it's the love which matters. It's wonderful to have 20, 50, 100, 500 ways of saying, I love you. So, diversity is the result of the billions of years of evolution. And we are denying it. We ourselves say we are educated, civilized human beings. And we are negating the work of civilization, work of evolution. Billions of years of civilization and evolution we have come where we flourished in biodiversity, in cultural diversity, in linguistic diversity, in religious diversity, national diversity, all the diversities, and even truth diversity. Truth diversity. There's no one single truth which everybody must follow. Everybody must follow your own truth. You must discover your own spirit inside you. Like we have our own eyes. Everybody can see with their own eyes. What do you see in this is up to you. So, in the same way, as you have your own eyes, you have your own truth. Embrace it and see the world in its true form, its true reality, deep reality. And if we have that unity of life manifesting in diversity of every kind, then we have a good society. No quarrels, no fights, many ways of doing things. You want to cook potatoes. There are hundreds of ways of cooking potatoes. When you go to China, they cook it a different way. They go to Tibet in a different way. You go to India, different way. Even in England, you have 20 different ways of cooking potatoes. You can have mashed potatoes, you can have fried potatoes, you can have boiled potatoes, you can have baked potatoes. It's a potato, like I love you. It's a potato which matters. And it's good to have many, many ways of cooking potatoes. If you have only one way of mashed potatoes in the morning, mashed potatoes in the evening, mashed potatoes on Sunday, mashed potatoes on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, mashed potatoes, it will be boring. We want different ways of cooking potatoes. In the same way, cultural and national and religious and the truth and other diversities are wonderful. We should celebrate and not fight over each other. Political diversity. Let them be communists if they want to. Let them be capitalists if they want to. Let them be Democrats if they want to. Let them have monarchy if they want to. In England, you have a queen, which has been reigning here for 60, 70 years. Why not? All systems have their goodness and all systems have their badness. There is no one system which is 100%. Every system has some good, some bad. But there is a field, like Rumi said, there's a field beyond right and wrong, beyond good and evil. There's a transcendence. And Rumi says there's a field beyond right and wrong Meet me there. Meet me there. So there's a field beyond capitalism, communism, socialism, monarchy, anarchy, militarism, materialism. There's a field beyond all these isms. I should call it, let all the isms become wasms. Because isms divide. There's a field beyond isms, a reality. Let's meet us there. That transcendental reality of unity, of beauty of life. Unity and beauty of life. And so I bring this sort of holistic thinking of soil. Get in touch with the earth. Celebrate the earth. Revere the earth. Reverence for life. And then cultivate the compassion and kindness of the soul qualities. Look after yourself. You are very special. Each and every one of you are unique. There's no double of you. There are 8 billion people in the world, but each and every one of us is unique. Take care of yourself. Loving yourself is not selfish. Even Jesus Christ says, love thy neighbor as thyself. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. So love yourself. Take care of yourself. Have time. When you say, I have no time for meditation, I have no time for temple, I have no time for chanting, you have no time for living. Have time for yourself. Always say, I have time for myself. I will meditate. I'll go for a walk. I'll sit under the tree. The Buddha sat under the tree. My mother used to say that why did Buddha got enlightenment? Because he was sitting under a tree. Nowadays we don't get enlightenment because we don't sit under a tree. We say, I don't have time for meditation. I'm too busy on my emails. Always smartphones. Leave your smartphone and email for 1 hour every morning on silence or on off. And have time for yourself. Who am I? What is my purpose of life here? How can I cultivate my compassion? Have time for yourself. And have time for yourself to be happy. To find joy in your life. To find pleasure in your life. Ananda. If you cannot find joy and pleasure and ananda in your life and have all the phones and all the machines and all the cars and all the computers and all the bank accounts and everything, but no love in your heart, what is all that worth? Nothing. All the other things are just icing on the cake. Your computers, your smartphone, your car, your money, your house, everything is icing on the cake. The cake is your spirit. The cake is your compassion. So you don't have a cake of compassion and you have icing of smartphone. What's the good of that? You can't eat icing. If you eat icing, you become ill. And our majority of people in the world are eating icing, and no cake. So cake of compassion is the cake which I'm talking about when I talk about soul. And then I say, society, build a community of people. We are together. Community, sense of community. Human community, earth community, London community. It's a Sangha. Your family community. It's a Sangha. Even the parliament should act like a community and not two opposition fighting with each other, government and opposition. Should be a community. So when you build a community, that's society. So I tell you this trinity, soil, soul, society. I mean, in our Buddhist tradition, we have Buddham Saranam Gacchami, Dhammam Saranam Gacchami, Sangham Saranam Gacchami. We have three refuges, trinity of the Buddha, the teacher, the Dharma, the teaching, and Sangha, the community. So it's more or less the same thing. What I'm saying is a bit modernized version of the same thing. That you need those 3 dimensions, 3-dimensional life. And when you bring those 3 together and live a good life, and it's not that you can just get to enlightenment tomorrow. It's a day-by-day, everyday practice. Every day you have to have time for yourself. Every day, like you eat every day. You don't say, I have eaten by breakfast or lunch or dinner today, now for the life finished. You can't say that. So you can't say, I have been to my temple, I've done my meditation, finished. It's every day. You need to eat every day, you need to shower every day, you need to meditate every day. You need to go to temple every day. You need to garden every day. You have to go for a walk every day. You have to sit under a tree every day. So all those things are step-by-step everyday activity. So I have written a book about it, Soil Soul Society. You can read it. But it's a great pleasure to come to this temple on Earth Day, on 22nd of April, Earth Day, which is being celebrated all over the world. And we are celebrating Earth as our mother. Earth is a sacred earth. Earth is sacrificing itself to maintain all life. And therefore we revere and we express our gratitude to the earth. And we say, thank you, earth, for giving me my body, giving me my food, giving me so much. Without the earth, there is no life. All your banks keep your money, but the real bank is the earth bank. When you put £1 in your bank, how much interest do you get? These days you don't get much interest. But if you put one seed in the ground, what do you get? That the earth bank gives you 1,000 apples, year after year after year for 20 years. That's the generosity of the earth bank. This is why we celebrate the Earth Day. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about it, and thank you for listening. Thank you. You can have some questions? Yeah.
Thank you very, very much, Satish, on behalf of the Kagyu, Samye, Dzong Tibetan Buddhist Center, for taking this time to come and speak to us. We are so appreciative of it.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And if anyone has any questions now, I'll pass you the microphone.
Hi, is the microphone on? Yeah. Thanks for the talks, really inspiring. So we've got, you mentioned soil, soul and society.
Yes.
And celebration. And I think the celebration is a really important part. But how do we go from like celebrating it and remembering our celebration, remembering reverence of life, the sacredness of life, but then you've got the crisis of society as well. So it's like the balance of celebration and lots of crisis, lots of converging crisis that we have to try and celebrate, but also...
So, we have a crisis. Wonderful. Isn't it wonderful? If there is no crisis, you have nothing to do. If the world was a perfect place, we will not need Buddha. Buddha came because there was a pain, there was a suffering, and so he came for healing. So it's a wonderful opportunity. When somebody is angry with you, what do? Say, oh, you are angry with me? This is my opportunity to be kind. If there is nobody angry with you, everybody is loving you, everybody is very compassionate to you, everybody is helping you, everybody is cooking food for you, everybody is making bed for you, you don't have any chance to forgive anybody. And so, having crisis is an opportunity for us to be an activist. If there was no colonialism and imperialism, there would be no Mahatma Gandhi. There was no apartheid, there would be no Nelson Mandela. There was no old people and sick people in India, there will be no Mother Teresa. All these great teachers that we respect use the crisis to become the pacifist, to become the peace activist, become the activist for non-violence. So you have a great opportunity. Put your life online, on the front line, and say, there's a war, there's a pollution, there's a global warming, there's a climate change, there's a poverty, I'm going to do something. Whatever it comes to you, doesn't matter. Even a small action you can do, write a poem about it. What did John Lennon say? Or did? Say, give peace a chance, just a song. But that made a big difference. All you need is love. That one song that John Lennon wrote. So write a song. Write a poem. What Picasso did when he saw the crisis of war, he made a beautiful, great painting of Guernica. Make a painting. If you have a crisis, Do a painting. Do something which is within your capacity and control. Complaining about crisis is not going to solve the crisis. Worrying about crisis is not going to solve the crisis. Don't worry. The world is as it is. Don't worry. You are not in charge of the world. You are not responsible for the world. But you are responsible for your action. So, crisis is an opportunity for you. Don't worry about it. And use it as an opportunity to serve the world. To you. And if everybody does that, there will be less of crisis. And actually, there is a more love in the world than there is a crisis in the world. There are 8 billion people on this earth. Millions of them are mothers are looking after babies, teachers are teaching, doctors are healing, shopkeepers are selling vegetables or food to other people. Lots of good things are happening in the world. So we should celebrate what is good and not exaggerate what is bad. And so what is bad, we try to heal. We try to help. We try to mitigate the crisis. So it is our responsibility to become activists, become spiritual people, and offer our life and our service to help the world without worrying about it. Okay?
Thank you.
There's a question there. Okay?
Actually, I have a question.
Yes.
Satish.
Yeah.
You said that the Taoist and the Hindu philosophy is very holistic, but actually it is those countries now that have the biggest problems of pollution.
Yes.
Do you have any thoughts on why that has happened with such positive philosophies that they haven't been able to implement it in their country?
The reason that countries like India and China are facing the problem of pollution and climate change is because the whole world, since the Second World War particularly, but since the Industrial Revolution, the whole world has bought this ideal or ideology that material progress, economic growth is the be-all and end-all. The purpose of life is economic growth. So all our universities in the West, as well as in India and China, they are teaching young people and training them to become a cog in the machine of industrial economic growth. And so this has like a tsunami in the world. Whole world is being swept by this tsunami, this kind of hurricane of materialism and consumerism. And the West is now exporting this pollution because they want China to make all the goods so that industrial production in England is not necessary anymore. Our economy is now service economy. All our manufacturing has been exported to Bangladesh, to Morocco, to India, to China, to Vietnam, to other countries. So the pollution is there greater, but we are responsible for that because we are importing those goods. We have so much plastic in this country. What do we do with it? We send it to China. We export our pollution and import their goods, cheap labor. And so we cannot say we are not responsible. But of course, India and China have forgotten their traditional teachings of non-dualism and holistic thinking, living simply, living frugally, living in harmony with the earth. These principles have forgotten. That, like we have in the Western world, people have forgotten Christianity. Jesus Christ teaches you, have no enemies. Turn the other cheek. And love your enemy. Tell Mrs. May, you are a Christian. You are a daughter of a vicar. You go to church every Sunday. And then say, Christianity is for Sunday. Christianity is only in the church. When I come out in 10 Downing Street and the parliament, then I am going to bomb Syria and make them enemies. I'm going to make Russia my enemy. That's not Christianity. So as West has forgotten Christianity, India has forgotten Hinduism and non-dualism, and China has forgotten Taoism, and many like Burma and so on, they have forgotten Buddhism. There's a crisis in Burma and in Ceylon. So we all have forgotten, and this is why we need to remember our roots, and we have to go back to our basic principles of our teaching. I don't have to say that we have to be dogmatic about it. Generosity is very important, but basic principles of living simply, living frugally, living in harmony with the earth, it's a universal principle. Whether it's a Christian or Buddhist or Taoist or Hindu, whatever label you put it, it's a universal principle of compassion and kindness. That's the principle of nature. So I think India and China, it would be good if they can remember their principles and not go through this coal and renewable energy. I was in China just now. They are talking about renewable energy, and they are saying we want to create ecological civilization. By 2050, they want to remove all their coal-fired stations and want to have solar panel. But in China, there's so much sun. In India, so much sun. Why they have to have a coal and go mining under the soil? When for energy, don't look down under the earth for oil and coal. Look up. The sun is giving free energy. So this is what India and China have to do. This is what I advise them to do. But they have forgotten it. I'm sorry about it. Thank you.
Thank you for your inspiring talk.
Thank you.
I'm just wondering, how have you experienced people have this great remembering before it gets to catastrophe or trauma in their lives? The whole buying into the economic progress is the be-all and the end-all story. In order to change that story in people's minds, to help them remember what the real story that we're trying to serve by being alive is, how ahead of it being catastrophe, have you found people can have...
Can you do without the microphone, because some echo is a bit not clear. Say again, in a nutshell, what was your question again?
Nutshell, the story of buying into economic growth as the be-all.
The story, the old story.
Versus the story to live into about serving
The
in
new
cooperation
story.
with life.
Yeah.
And people often only remember that story when their own life is at stake or through a big catastrophe. Did you find in your work other ways for people to remember before it having to get so bad?
Yeah. Yes, very good. So when you go through some crisis in life, like catastrophe in life, that is a good lesson. You learn from the catastrophe of life. And when you are going through pain and through suffering, sometimes we think that pain and suffering should be avoided. We cannot avoid it. We have to embrace it. We have to accept it. Recognize that's a part of life. And I can learn from my trauma. So now the world is going in this crisis because we are stuck in the old story of separation, of dualism, of control, of power over other people. This is the old story. Now, in order to come to a new story, we have to recognize that this old story has created wars, conflicts, poverty, global warming, climate change, many, many problems. So learn from this and find a way, a new story. And the new story is a story of relatedness. That we are all interdependent, we are all interconnected, and we are made of each other, and we cannot live on this planet Earth as separate beings. We have to cooperate, we have to work together. That's the new story. So like when you have a disease, illness, you learn from your illness. Why I got this disease? Is my diet not right? Am I eating too much gluten? I'm eating too much sugar? I'm eating too much salt? What is my diet which is giving me this cause? So when you have physical trauma, you learn from that and you change your diet, you go into exercise, you take a bit more rest, a bit more sleep, you do something. So trauma can be your teacher. So we don't have to put down our trauma. We have to learn from our trauma, learn from our past mistakes, and then celebrate the present. Because present has many wonderful things which we need to celebrate. So celebration, unity, the new story, we can learn that by going through the experience of trauma. So like personal trauma, social trauma, world trauma. And at the moment there is that trauma there, and we have to learn from it. Any other question, please? And there's one here, yeah.
I'm just curious to know how you became so passionate about the environment. What made you come to this path?
What made me, yeah. My life story is, it's a long story. I was born as a Jain monk. I was born in a Jain family and became a Jain monk at age 9. And I went through trauma, what you talked about. I saw my father dying when I was 4 years old. And there was a big trauma in the family as well, because my mother, my sisters, everybody crying. And loss of father at a very early age, because he was only 50 years old, and he had a heart attack. And so, when I saw everybody crying in the family, as a 4-year-old boy, I could understand what was going on. And so I asked my mother, what's the problem? Why are you crying? Why father is not here? Why is not walking? Why is not eating? What's the problem? And so my mother says, your father is dead. What is death? Everybody dies. Mother, will you die? Yes, I will die. Will I die? Yes, you will die. Then everybody will cry? Yes. Everybody will cry. So that death of my father was a turning point. At a very early age in my life. I was 4 or 5 years old at that time. So from that time on, I started to wonder, is there a way of stopping death? And I started to ask that question to my monks, because they were our teachers. My mother used to take me to the Jain monks. And so I'll ask this question to the monks and say, is there any way of stopping death? Because when somebody dies, everybody is in trauma, everybody is in crying and sadness and sorrow. So the monk said, the only way to be free of the samsara, the cycle of birth and death, is to forsake the world and become a monk. And I said, I will do anything to stop death. And so, by age 9, I became convinced, and I became passionately convinced, I want to become a monk. And I convinced my mother, and my guru accepted me, and I became a monk. So that is a path started. Although after 9 years of being a monk, I had other ideas and the changes of mind, and the idea of death of that kind changed, and I realized that actually there is no birth and no death. Actually, we are just changing forms. It's a transformation. Nothing can disexist what exists. So we don't disappear, we just change form. And so in that changing form, we are part of life. And life and death are two sides of the same coin. So that was a kind of, you can say, path which led me to where I am now. And I see now in a much more holistic way the world, the ideas, and they're all interconnected. And I can live a more life which is fulfilling, joyful, celebratory, without worrying. Sometimes people ask me, you are 81, what is the source of your energy? And I say, worrying takes the energy away. So stop worrying. I have stopped worrying. And that keeps me energetic. So that's the kind of story. I mean, I've written my book, Life Story, called No Destination, and there is some bookstore somewhere you will see. There. Okay, Peter will come and say a few words in a minute. So there's a book telling you the whole story, but that's the beginning. Yes, please.
I was going to ask you, do you believe it's essential to follow...
Believe in?
Do you believe it's essential to follow a recognised religious practice to achieve some sense of transcendence that you talked about?
Do I follow it?
No, do you believe that
people should follow?
People should follow, whether it be Judaism or Christianity or...
Okay, yeah. The question is, do I believe that people should follow a particular path, a particular religion, whether Christianity or Buddhism or something like that? Any religion.
Yes.
Huh?
Do we need some kind of path?
Do we need a particular path? Yeah. The question, the answer is yes and no. The yes is that, like when you are training to be an artist, you go to a school and you have a teacher. And the teacher teaches you how to draw, how to colors, a bit of history, a bit of story. The Picasso like this, Monet was like this, Leonardo da Vinci was like this, the Buddhist paintings are like that. You will learn. But then, that's a yes. So you need to learn practices from Buddhist or Christian or whichever religion you are in. But then when you leave the school, your art school or music school or the school for writing, then you say, now I leave the school behind. I am going to be myself. And I'll paint pictures from my heart, from my own imagination, my own creativity, and not copy and just repeat what my school taught me. So if you want to be the Buddha followed for many years a certain path. But then he sat under the tree and found his own inner light. So the gurus and the schools of teachings are like a little matches. The light is inside you. You are the candle. But you need a guru, a teaching, a tradition, a ritual to light the candle. But then you have to find your own light. You cannot copy Buddha. You cannot copy the Dalai Lama. You cannot copy Jesus Christ and be a spiritual person. You have to find your own true spirituality within your heart. And the external ritual and etc. are just a technique, the windows into opportunity. But if you don't go inside you and you just repeat the Bible or the Quran or the Dhammapada or Tripitakas and so on, repeat. So that's not. You have to go deep into the spirit. Shanti Deva, he was a very lazy man. And all the monks and in his monasteries, you'd say, you don't study, you don't practice, you don't come to meditation, you don't come to meditation hall. What are you doing? You are just wasting time. That's not very, very good. And then they used to take a turn to teach. You say, now we will see, this is your turn, Shantideva. You have to teach. And you have not learned anything. So stupid, now is your test. And Shantideva comes and sits on the throne and starts to speak. This is the Bodhisattva, Sattva-acharya, the book. It's a very beautiful book. And everybody's amazed. Absolutely stunned. Where did you learn this? It came from his heart. He came from his heart. He was meditating within his heart, in his room. He was looking lazy, not studying, not going to temple, not going to zendo, not doing anything, but he was going into his heart. So we all have to go and find our light inside us. Outside is only a help. And I'm not against it. You say yes, the answer is yes. But I also no. You become just a kind of ritualistic, following the path, and it's a ritual. That's not enough. You have to go a bit deeper and break the barriers. Break the barriers. Each and every one of us is a potential Buddha. Buddha is not a special kind of one person, and they never again. Every person has a potential to be a Buddha. How do you become a Buddha? By going deep inside you. And so you have to drop the external, even rituals or whatever. At one point, Shantideva dropped everything. The Buddha dropped everything. Buddha was not a Buddhist. And Jesus was not a Christian. You have to be your own artist. Picasso, Monet, Turner, William Blake, all these great beings, they go into their imagination, into their heart, into their spirit, into their consciousness, and get in touch with it. So I need to get in touch with our own imagination and creativity. And it doesn't have to be famous. You don't have to be famous like the Buddha. You can be a very unfamous, unknown person living in a cave. Doesn't matter. But you are in touch with your heart. Naropa lived in a cave. So you can live in a cave, unknown, and yet you can be in peace. But you have to find that in your heart. You cannot be a ritualistic, just following external rituals, or go to church, like Mrs. May goes to church on Sunday. What's good? So, yeah, in the end, it's within us. Okay, any other question? Okay, thank you very much.